Why do people use podcasts? That's a good question. It's a broad question. There's multiple reasons why people use podcasts. But in the B2B space, there are two reasons I see to use a podcast. One is build authority, right? If you want to be a thought leader in your niche, that is a really good place to basically put down your flag and say, yes, I know what I'm talking about. I think that the biggest caveat to that is that you really do need to have a niche. Because if you're, say, we're marketers, I'm a marketing guru. Well, that doesn't tell anybody anything and it doesn't connect with anybody, right? Because marketing is such a big, broad topic. And you need to really get down to the nitty gritty of what, like in my podcast, I talk about B2B marketing for professional services providers. Okay. That if you're a professional service provider that works with other businesses, you're going to go, oh, okay, great. I know what this guy's talking about and I'm interested in that. So they're going to listen, right? The other side of it is using it as a networking tool. And you see a lot of these, whether you realize it or not, they're going to be people that are in a niche and they are interviewing usually their ICP, their ideal client profile, right? Their ideal prospect, if you will. And what they're trying to do is get to know them. I have one as well, so I have both types of podcasts that I use, and the way that I use it is a dual interview, right? And it only serves it serves them in that they get exposure in my network, and they get to build some authority because somebody wants to talk to them about what they're all about, right? But I'm also finding out I'm learning about them. Do I like them? Would does their business fit the profile of people that we help? Do they have a clear, urgent struggle that I might be able to help them overcome? If not, no worries. We network. A lot of times, or sometimes, they become great referral partners. It's all about that network. It's not always about trying to get to the next call or get to the sales call. But I have people who are at the end of the show, I'll forget to dig because I like to give, and I'm a Zig Ziglar fan who he says if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get everything you'll ever need. And I feel that, so I get into that, and by the end of the show, they're like, "So what do you do?" And then I let them know. And then I have basically led with abundance, right? Giving them the spotlight, having a great conversation. And so now if they do have a problem, they're like, wait, I have that. I like to talk to you. And then they'll ask for that next call. Or sometimes something in the call or in the interview will trigger like, oh man, after the interview's done, hey, did you need some help with that? It sounds like that's a pretty big pain point for you, and that's something right up our alley. So those are the two ways I see B2B and service-based businesses using podcasts. Okay, sure can. So a blog, yeah, yeah. I mean, a blog is, great, and there's things to use blogs with. And the funny thing is, you can use if you're doing a solo podcast, and you can use what you're talking about as a blog. So you can actually leverage the two, create a content marketing flywheel with both of them. But the biggest difference is that you are now in somebody's ear with your voice for anywhere between 20 minutes, sometimes even 10. It doesn't take very long. Some people have 5 to 10 minute little snippets, and so they do one a day, and so that person has now got them in their ear every day. For me, I do a 20 minute, 15 to 20 minute talk, and that means I've got their attention for 20 minutes, and they're listening to me intently, and I'm teaching them something every time they hear my voice. Voice penetrates much deeper than printed word. If they're watching me on video, now they're burning my face into their memory. And if they see me, and if they're listening or watching my YouTube podcast, they're probably also following one of my social media. So every time my face pops up there, they're automatically, oh, he's very familiar. And that familiarity builds a lot of trust. And so you're going to that know, like, trust paradigm where when we're reading, there's no face to it unless they've seen you multiple times, right? And so, and we could go down that road, but for podcast sake, that just having somebody's specific voice in your ICP's ear is gold. When they finally talk to you, it's like they know you. You do not have to overcome the, oh, do we have anything in common, dot, 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 right? They're just like, oh, I love your stuff and blah, blah, blah. And then they'll dive right in. They're ready to do business at that point, right? And they're like, I listened to this episode. You were talking about this. It reminded me of this problem I have. And I'm just wondering, I tried this, and they're just going down and they're just giving you all the information that you need to help them. And then you're like, oh yeah, I have a solution for that. Let's talk about dot, 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 dot. And you write in the sales call and you didn't even ask for the sale. Mm-hmm. You could get more niche. Like you could say, I work with uh, I work. So you could say that it is the. I'm going to give a bad example. The roofers marketer podcast, right? So if you're a roofer and you're looking to market, we're talking about how to market roofing companies on this show. So the only people who are probably listening are roofers. Yes. Yes, you can you can narrow your target, and for marketing, we usually are not in this day and age with digital the digital realm now where we're at. You don't have as many local marketers as you used to, unless they're brick and mortar marketers, where you do need to be there on boots on the ground doing event planning stuff like that. But if you are, let's say you serve brick and mortars and you have to be boots on the ground and you're just starting out, yes, I'm not just Minnesota, like in Minneapolis, it's like, right? The greater Minneapolis, because if you can get enough, if the audience is big enough, right? You could say the tri-state area if you're willing to drive or fly in that space, right? So yes, I agree with you on the geographics. If you need to be boots on the ground, if you don't, there's no reason because now you've just opened yourself up to the entire addressable market. I have a friend who is a Google Ads or was a Google Ads. He sold his agency. They picked Montessori schools. All right, you know how many Montessori schools are in the entire United States? Try 4,500. He built an eight-figure agency on serving a target market of only 4,500 people. Right? Yeah. Well, and the great thing, so and when people are looking for a niche, he he loves Montessori schools. He is a big promoter of Montessori schools and charter schools, right? That's so he saw that there was not enough visibility for that, and so he took what he knew about PPC and he's like, hey, listen, let us help you get more people in your schools because I know that's going to help. It's going to help our country, right? It's going to help get better and smarter people as U.S. citizens. So, so it's you can find it right in front of your nose, and most people look past it, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love it. Yes. People love to talk about themselves. So if you just met somebody, I'll say on LinkedIn, and you went one of two ways. Hey, great to connect with you. Would you like to get on a sales call? Or, hey, great to connect with you. I checked out your profile and I think you would be a great guest on my podcast. Which one are you going to say yes to first? Why? But why? When somebody asks you to be a guest on their podcast, okay, they're telling you that you have something important to say. It now turns everything back onto the person you're asking. The limelight is on them, right? And if you're able to do that and that makes people feel good, even the people who don't even like to do public speaking, they're like, I've had people that are going, I don't have anything to say. I was like, well, how long have you been in business? And if they say anything over a day, I'm like, man, your story, there's a million other people with your story, right? There's a bunch of people who haven't even started their business, and you are day two into your business. You know your story is important, right? So even when they say no, the no is an easier objection to overcome, right? And then when you're done and you make them feel good for the 20, that usually takes me about 45 minutes to do the whole thing, right? And they're done. They feel so good because I make sure that it's all about them, right? If I don't agree with them in the interview, I'll push back a little bit, but I'll say it out loud. Hey, I'm going to push back on this because I want the listeners to dot, 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 right? But then we have the conversation, but I make sure that it's not that they're wrong. It's just that there's another way to look at it, right? Now we're creating all this value. And at the end, if I did disagree with them, it's like, I'm so glad that you were able to show the other side of that story. I never tell them they're wrong. It's just that they have a different opinion, which is the truth, right? And if you validate somebody's point of view, regardless of whether you agree with them or not, that's huge. People love to be validated. We all walk around with imposter syndrome. Somebody coming around and saying, hey, Betty, you're important enough to talk to. Look, I can put a smile right on your face. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're those types of all of the two types of podcasts that we've been talking about are great for consulting firms and service-based businesses. There are those with products out there that can talk about it, and software as a service that are out there that can do the same thing. It's going to be on that topic of overcoming XYZ, and you have a software that'll actually help that, right? There's a company called Drafted Digital, which helps. It's basically a self-publishing platform. You write your book, you upload it to their platform, and it's outside of like the KDP for Amazon. So now you get into, um, I'm sorry, Barnes and Noble, and other big, you know, distributors, right? And you don't have to have a publisher. They have a now their podcast is all about writing, and they talk about fiction and nonfiction. They talk about and then they touch on publishing, and then their sponsor is obviously them, right? So you can work it any way you want, and then they have interviews with people, and sometimes it's just the two of them talking. There's the two founders that talk about something as well, and sometimes they segment, and they're like they'll talk a little bit, and then they're like, and that reminds me about our interview with blah 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 blah, and then they bring that person on. Okay, now they're networking with those people because what they're doing is they're saying, hey, this is a person who uses us, they've been successful, now they're using them as a case study for the listeners, while they're teaching them how to write a book, what's the mindset, all the things that's going to get somebody to the finish line of writing a book. And now once they have a book written, what do they got to do? They got to publish it. Where are we going to publish it? Probably with the people who taught me or got me through the process of writing the dang thing. It's a long game, guys. Like anybody listening, this is a long game. But if you play the long game, you win. Because too many people are playing the short game. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So I have a saying that says that if you if you play well, I forgot my own dang saying. So we're gonna make it up. I was playing with it the other day, and I was like, okay, so those who those who plant seeds expecting fruit today go hungry. Those who plant seeds today only to expect food tomorrow will always eat. Okay, if you're out hunting, okay, and you kill everything in your near sight, right? You're depleting your food supply. If you plant a tree and it grows up and it'll make fruit for a very long time, right? So there's a couple ways of looking at it this way. I tell people you play the long game and you exercise the short game. Okay. So when I'm testing things, so say I'm trying to find product market fit. I'm just getting into a new niche, right? And I'm going to use the short game to test whether or not my message resonates with the people that I want to serve, with the product that I have to solve the problem that they're having. Okay. Now, if I can't do that in the short term, then it's not ready for the long game. You're planting the wrong seed, right? In the wrong soil, right? So there's nothing wrong with playing a short game. Just make sure that you're using that to find the right seeds in the right fields so that you can hit your long game. Because at some point, you're going to find yourself not being able to leverage or do more. When you're hunting, it's you and force. Okay. You're out getting it. When you're planting, you are depositing and nurturing. Okay. Now, if I kill one deer, I have that deer. If I plant one seed, I have the fruit for the entire life of that tree. Yes. Yeah. Because you have to eat until the tree's ready. And you should always have the short because you're always going to be testing the next idea. So if you test the next idea on your short game, all right, and you've proven it, and it's like, oh, now I have another seed. Boom. Pretty over time, you have an orchard. So when people say, oh man, I've got this multi-million-dollar company, you're an overnight success, blah blah blah, blah. An overnight success is a 10-year plan. Yeah. Hmm. 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 So there, okay. So making the podcast is technically the easy part, right? Just like writing a book. Now you got to go sell it, right? And one of the things one of the ingredients in your podcast, if you're doing a solo podcast, one of the ingredients that you must have in there are call to actions. Okay. Whether it's a trigger, you're downloading free ebooks that's specifically on that topic. If you check out my podcast, Buzzworthy Marketing Show, it's the Buzzworthy Marketing Podcast. And you go to season, so just starting in January, so this last quarter here, depending on when you're listening to this, so January 2025, and you listen to that season right there, we went strictly to a solo podcast. Almost every one of those shows at some point has a call to action. Okay, now I have now I have basically the trap, if you will. Okay, I hate to say it that way, but that's what it is. Okay, because you're luring them in with information. You're teaching them for free, so that once they get to the point, they're like, "This is the person who can help me get what I want." If you don't ask or to let them know that, hey, I'm here to help, they won't ask. So if you don't ask, they won't ask. Okay, so you had to leave that in there. Now this is evergreen. And that's another thing that when you're doing it, is make sure that you're talking about evergreen things as much as possible. I do some topical stuff like AI and stuff like that every once in a while, but the majority of everything is very evergreen. Okay. And I get very specific. So it's not, I'm like, you don't want to cover everything in one episode. Get very, very specific about one thing over a 10, 20-minute monologue and you're done. Okay. Now you have that, the ingredients are there. Now you have to put ears on it. Okay. There are a couple of ways to do it organically through your email newsletter. Hey, I talked about blah 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 blah, right? And oh, you should check out this dot dot dot, right? In your social media, you create your reels and all that good stuff on YouTube. Create reels. And make sure that they're optimized for search, right? Another way is to create a blog off of that, and then you can even share that, and then make sure that the podcast is in the blog as well, because some people will go, oh, he's got a podcast. I'll listen to a podcast when I'm driving to work. I can't read a blog when when I'm on my way to work, right? I'm exercising. I can listen to a podcast. I'm golfing. I can listen to a podcast. A podcast is very there. So all you're doing is trying to drive them there. You're not selling anything. Now you're not the guy going, hey, I've got the next new thing. Da, 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 da. No, you talk about this big problem that a lot of people have, and I discuss how to solve it on my podcast. You got to make them they need to follow you in there. And this is a space where the amount of podcast people follow is minuscule compared to the people they follow on social media. And they have multiple social media channels that they're following people. So, you want to be a blip in the noise, or do you want to be a beacon in an empty field? Right? Okay. Now, that's organic. It takes time, literally like years to build a audience. Okay. We have 30 to 45,000 people stream our podcast every month. Okay. On one of them. The other podcast gets 10 a week. Okay. Now, which one do you think I'm putting time into? Probably the 30 to 45,000. Now, did we get to 30, 45,000 in a organically? Absolutely not. If you're trying to get into the big numbers, you have to advertise your show, just like authors have to advertise on Amazon Books and Barnes and Noble websites and stuff like that to put them at the top of the list and get the visibility. Okay. So we don't spend a lot of money doing this. Okay. It doesn't take a lot. And if somebody wanted to talk to me about how to advertise for the, get that listenership, that's good. Money means speed. Okay. That's just the way it goes. And if you want to do it organically, that's great. You're locked into the long game. We did it for a couple of years, and we're like, this is awesome. We're starting to get traction. You know what would get faster traction? A little cash. And I'm not talking a lot, like 500, maybe $1,000 a month, right? If you're a small business, you don't need 30,000 people downloading. We're going after a bigger market, right? We're trying to scale. With people who are growing, you only really need a couple hundred people who are listening to you fervently. That's huge, because one of them calling you a month is a new client. That's 12 new clients. For some people, that's more than they can handle. So you need to figure out where your business is at, and then you decide how many listeners it will take for you to get calls. Okay. But don't think that you're going to put the podcast out there and you got to call to action at the end, just like Buzz told him to, and then nobody called. Guess what? I've got dozens upon dozens of podcasts out there that never got called upon. I've been on over 200 other people's podcasts like this right here with a free offer that yeah, you're my first one, right? There, 9 times out of 10, I have a book offer it's a free book, signed copy of my book, The Rule 26, and I get one, maybe two per episode that I'm on, right? It's again, it's a long game, but over time, those podcasts will be listened to at some point, right? But you're only going to get a 2% conversion rate, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, heck yeah. So there's a couple of different ways you can advertise. So like iHeartMedia is one of the bigger conglomerates, radio conglomerates. Well, they also have iHeartMedia podcast distribution, right? So they have a channel that you can buy from them, but you gotta make sure that you're on the iHeartMedia distribution. Okay. For like iTunes, I'm sorry, not iTunes, but as Apple Podcast and Shopify and stuff like that. We utilize a programmatic AI placement tool. Okay. And it basically gets people, it identifies people who are listening to podcasts, for one, so behavioral, and they're in the market of dot, 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 whatever you're selling type of thing. And then they put that ad in front of people when they're listening to podcasts. Okay. You also can be on other people's podcasts to promote people's podcasts. You can also, that's organic, but you could sponsor another person's podcast. Hey, can my listeners or your listeners, would you mind me putting an ad on or would you sponsor our podcast? Can I sponsor your podcast by mentioning my podcast? Okay. These are all paid ways to do this. You can do it outside of the podcast realm altogether. Display ads. You could do some PPC if people are looking for something specific. You need to know exactly what they're searching for if they're going to be even interested in a podcast, because when you're searching on Google, you're usually looking for an immediate answer. And podcasts can do that, but they're probably going to lean towards the video, the how-to videos and stuff like that. So if you have a podcast that's all video, that's great. You could do that, because there are search terms out there that are actually video first, meaning that they prioritize video content before they give you anything else besides AI. Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So, what I suggest people do is that they have a CRM, okay, a client relationship management, or a marketing operating system, something like BuzzHub. That's ours, marketing operating system. And so, what we do is we create a landing page for any of the call to actions. Okay. From that landing page, there is a free download. So they're going to put in their information. They're going to get the download done. Okay. We also have we have quiz funnels where they're like, if I'm talking about something that's like, hey, do you think you're ready to do some advertising, or is marketing still your thing? Maybe you should take the marketing readiness quiz. They go in the quiz, they get their response emailed to them. Then they also have a bunch of call to actions for free, cheap, and intensive help, right? Those types of things. Okay, that's all automated in your CRM or your marketing operating system. Okay, then you have nurture sequences that go along with that. So if somebody downloads something, now you need to, if they, once they download it, you want to automate a email nurture sequence that then keeps them in the loop with that. And if they download this one thing, now you give them a little bit of time, sometimes 3 days. It depends on your market. Maybe it's a week. And then a week later, you're like, hey, notice that you did dot, 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 right? And you downloaded dot, dot, dot. And now they're like, you could ask them for their feedback. You could give them the next thing. Hey, if you liked that, we also have this thing. And then in your automation, you start creating what we call a quality score on your lead. And the more that they engage, the higher their score. And at some point, the score gets high enough to where it triggers a notification to you in your email that says, you need to reach out to this person. They've done this, 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 and this. I think they're ready to talk to somebody, right? Right? And so with that, then now you have that, right? And then you need to do that throughout the whole sales process. But what you're talking about is a nurture sequence. And I don't care if you do it with SMS text, because you can do the same thing. And we have it right inside of our CRM. So it's like you can choose which one you want. Other folks, they will mail something out to somebody. Now, once they've mailed something out, then there's a ticker. So when when my book goes out to somebody, a week later, there's an email that automatically goes out there that says, hey, I hope you got the book. If you didn't, please let me know. Then 2 weeks later, and then I have a little bit of like, I'm excited for you to learn about blah, 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 dot, dot, dot. If you have any questions, give me a holler, okay? Then I give them another 2 weeks because they have to read the book. Now, here's the secret. If you're sending a book out, only like 5% of the people who get the book will read the book, right? But that doesn't mean that they won't call out to you. I have had people who have signed on for my services, got the book, thumbed through the book a little bit, maybe, and then ended up calling or responding to one of our outreaches and never actually read the book. And I know when they don't read the book because they go, all right, so what are the 26 steps to your rule thing? And it's like, well, it's right on the cover, 3 steps. There's only 3 steps to the rule of 26. Literally, like right here on the bottom. So it's like rule of 26 at the top. And then on the bottom, there it is. 3 steps to doubling your website revenue. It's right there. So they didn't even read this right here. If their pain is big enough and your explanation is simple enough, they're going to ask questions. I hope I answered your question about automation. If you understand that your solution creates the next problem, and understand what that problem is, and you know how to fix that one, Now you're inside their head. They're like, how did you know it's going to have that problem? Because every time you solve a problem, you create a new problem, right? Success begets success by creating the next problem. You don't get success without solving the problem. There's nothing there, right? What are you successful at if there's nothing to overcome? So what's the struggle? What's the next struggle? And if you can always stay right ahead of that struggle, now they might not have noticed that struggle yet, right? You might have got them a little early because some people progress slower than others, right? That's okay because guess what? It's going to happen. Man, why does this struggle seem so familiar? Oh, that's right. Buzz told me I was going to have this struggle. Golly, he's smart. I should probably talk to him and see if we can speed this process up. Mm-hmm. The only urgency is their pain point. Only 3% of your entire addressable market is ready or in the market for your solution today. So that means 3 out of 100 people who are listening to your podcast even have that struggle. But you just made them aware that they're probably going to run into it at some point. Okay? So the urgency is created by the listener, not by the deliverable. People who are trying to give you false sense of urgency are selling you things. You know how I don't sell anything? I solve problems instead. And the people who are like, yep, I've got that problem and it hurts. It hurts really bad. And I'm tired of it. I'm calling Buzz. Um, well, I do want to a little caveat, or not caveat, but an add on to what I just said. When you approach it by just solving the problem and letting, because you never know when somebody's going to actually listen to it, or they might come back and listen to it again later on when they do have that problem more and more, right? You're keeping everything evergreen, which means that the shelf life of your podcasts become much longer, which means later on when you want to recap on something, you can actually push them to back to an older podcast. And now you're recycling podcasts without actually having to re-record them in your new ones. So you can build upon something, right? And if you're talking about the next problem and you're like, if you haven't overcome this thing, this is going to be different. So if you're that person, you should go listen to this first. And I do that all the time in my podcast. I'm like, hey, we're going to talk about XYZ, but if you haven't done this first, you need to go listen to this podcast so that you can get up to where we're at. We'll be here when you get back. Right? Okay? And just remember, it's your show. If you need to take a week off, it's fine. Okay? Nobody's sitting there going, "Oh no, they didn't they're only when they follow, they're going to get a notification when you get a podcast, when they get a new episode." Some people only podcast once a month. Some every other week. Some every week like myself, some every day. But you have to decide what your bandwidth is to do a great job. My networking podcast, Buzzworthy Consultant Podcast, that one right there, we only put out podcasts when we do interviews. There is no rhyme or reason of when we do it. We're not worried about, because our thing is to promote them through our social media immediately after that. Not necessarily trying to get them tens of thousands of viewers. We don't need them to get that. What we're trying to do is just get in a relationship with them and give them fodder to use for their own marketing. So just remember, it's your show. People will give you advice all the time. You do you, and you'll be fine. Okay, go ahead. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 I love it. And I also tell people get ahead of your podcast. All right. Be 4 to 8 episodes ahead of yourself. If you're every other week, get episodes in the can and have backup episodes if something happens. If you're an interview and you're doing it the week before and they don't show up, what's going to happen? You don't have a podcast, right? So yes, I agree 100%. Consistency is consistency, but I see people who will like quit their show because they missed a week and they're just like, oh, I can't keep up with it. Well, then change it up a little bit. And changing it up is fine. Like you were saying, like the consistency in the timing is great. You can play around with how long it is. You can play around with if it's interviews versus solo. I've done that. You can change your name every quarter if you really want to because they're already following you, right? They don't care what the name is, right? You're just trying to find the next group of people to follow you. Like we have 1,000 or 1,400 subscribers on Spotify, right? I have no idea how we got that many people. It's happening, right? But they don't care what it's called anymore. As long as it's really close, like we always have the buzzworthy. They don't care what's after buzzworthy. They know they're in the right place, right? And we've gone through buzzworthy marketing show, buzzworthy marketing podcast, back and forth. It doesn't matter, right? And a lot of people get hung up on that stuff. But yes, consistency is key, but don't kill yourself if for some reason you trip and you miss, right? Just get back on the horse and keep going and set reasonable expectations to your bandwidth and your energy that you can put into it. With your accent, that's acceptable. Yes. Yes. The rule of 26 is at ruleof26.com. All I ask is that you pay for the shipping and handling. I will give you the book and my signature right inside. Well, thank you for having me.